Welcome to Outdoors Radio with Dan Small, your source for the latest hunting and fishing information.
Thanks for joining us on Outdoors Radio. I'm Dan Small. Well, it's time for our update on Lake Michigan fishing in the Sheboygan area once again, sponsored by Dumper Dan's Sport Fishing Charters, Condos, and Riverfront Store right there on South Pier Drive in Sheboygan and on the web at dumperdan.com. He's got a Facebook page that's just loaded with pictures of big fish, Dumper Dan's Sport Fishing Charters. And our second sponsor this week is 902 on the Avenue Bar and Grill. They're located, guess where? 902 Indiana Avenue. Easy to find right there in Sheboygan. And on Facebook at 902 on the Avenue. And joining us from Sheboygan, Captain Dumper Dan Welch once again. Dan, welcome back.
You bet. Glad to be back on board with you, Dan.
Well, how's the fishing? It's picking up, I understand.
It's picking up, Dan, since we talked last. We are starting to get into some of the big kings, and that's what we've been waiting for. And as you know, and we've been talking about, the water's been cold. The king bite has been kind of hit and miss because of that cold water, Lake Michigan temperature we've been having here in the month of June, kind of unseasonably cool. But it's starting to warm up. Kings are starting to bite. We're catching coho, some rainbow now, kings, and some lakers. So we're starting to get into our variety time of year of trout and salmon here out of the port of Sheboygan, Dan.
Okay. Now, last week we talked about water temperatures, and you said anything in the 50s is good for salmon. Now, I know that's true for cohos. Is that the same with kings?
Yeah, even more so with kings, to be honest with you, because coho, they're going to chase bait, and bait like warmer water too, like the alewife and the shad, but they're chasing bait, and they're not as finicky on water temp as a king is. A king, they'll put the feed bag on and start eating tremendously when the water temps are right. Otherwise, they're kind of sluggish and dormant, and right now we're just getting into the low 50s on temperature here out of Sheboygan, so that's a good thing, and obviously it's going to keep warming up, but the kings are starting to bite. We're getting a few kings on every Dumper Dan boat, every trip now. In fact, we just had six or seven come in here in the last 48 hours between 18 and 24 pounds. So most of them are about 20, 21 pounds. Nice fish, good eating fish. Nothing overly huge yet, but some nice solid salmon. So I think once it warms up, they'll really start turning on. They'll pack on the weight, and we'll get bigger numbers of king salmon off the port of Sheboygan.
Now, those fish look bigger than 20 pounds, I'll tell you. Either people are learning to hold them out far, or gosh, they're long. What's going on? Are they long and just haven't put on the weight yet?
Well, that's just it. I mean, there's a ton of bait in the lake right now. You see it on the surface everywhere. Our customers see it because you can see, some of them do die off. A lot of them do not. So you see them floating around. You see them on our graphs and fish finders suspended, swimming around these bait fish. Now, the cohos, when we clean them, and the lake trout, they are just plump full of alewife and shad. I mean, an average 8 to 10 pound fish will have 30 alewife in its belly. It's crazy.
Wow.
But now the kings don't yet. They're just starting to get on the feed bag here, and they're starting to get aggressive. So with the water warming up, so yeah, they're 40 inches long. I mean, they look ginormous, Dan, but they're not quite got the girth yet. And basically it's kind of like catching them in April and May, but it's just a little late this year, and it's June. So I think come July, it's going to be gangbusters. These fish are going to pack on the weight, and they're going to get up into that 25, 30, 32, 34 pound range like they did last year in June. This year in July is what we're thinking.
Yeah, okay. Well, you mentioned bait fish, and last week we reported that we got a news release from Michigan, from the state of Michigan, that they had a rather significant die-off of alewife up and down the shore, and that's kind of a common thing that happens some years, but hasn't happened in, at least a decade. But they've got a pretty significant die-off this year. Have you seen anything like that on the Wisconsin side?
Yeah, absolutely. That's what I just mentioned. Is our customers can see it, we can see it. Right now, from the harbor out to about 150 feet of water as we power out, yeah, there's alewife floating all over the place. I mean, they're spread out, but you can see them everywhere. And that's, don't get me wrong. I mean, that's normal. I mean, back in the 60s when they planted the cohos and then the kings shortly after, they planted them fish for that reason, to eat the bait fish up, because if you see them floating like that on the surface, we have too many of them in the lake, and they're very finicky bait fish. I mean, they're half saltwater, half freshwater fish. They came from the ocean, over the years, and they live so long in freshwater, and they die off. And as you get more of them, they die off quicker, and you see more of them. So that article you talked about, I saw it too on the Michigan side, is happening here as well. And that's, to be honest with you, that's a good thing, because that means the lake's full of bait.
Okay. Of course, when it happened way back in the 60s, there were windrows of dead alewives on the shore, and that's what triggered the move to stock salmon in the lake to eat those. But you don't see anything like that here.
No, there's a little bit on the beaches. I've had people walk in my store that live, south of town, Black River, Terry Andre skate park area, and they've mentioned that there's some on the beaches. I've seen some over by Blue Harbor on the beach on the sand. So there are some there that wash up on shore. I mean, they're going to end up washing up on shore eventually with the east wind, the ones we're seeing floating, but it's not like it used to be. But we haven't seen anything like that, Dan, in decades.
Yep.
And it's good, because I mean, we have that much bait in the lake, and we've been telling the DNR that for years, and that's why we got our increase in stocking of salmon and trout the last 3-4 years, is because we felt the lake could they could handle that, and these fish could eat them bait fish up and grow nice and healthy and big, and that's what's happening. So It's a good thing. We got more bait in the lake, and the fish are full of the alewife and the shad as we clean them and we bring them in, and it's all turning in the right direction, put it that way. Now all we need is for summer to get a little bit warmer here on Lake Michigan, and that water temp will warm up, and it'll be phenomenal. These fish will really light up.
Are they moving a little closer to shore?
They are. We're fishing right now. In fact, my 6 Dumper Dan boats are out as we speak, and they're fishing 90 foot out to about 140, 150, and that's where they're catching the variety. So we are closer to shore. We were motoring out 6, 8, 10 miles south of town. Now we're straight out of town, anywhere from a mile to about 3 to 4 miles. So they are moving in closer. A lot more activity too, Dan, lately. With private boats out on the lake too, so there's quite a few. The boat landings have been very busy. A lot of boats on the weekends out, so take advantage of the nice weather and the better fishing as it gets better and better, and get out there yourself if you have your own rig to take on Lake Michigan, and that's a good sign. So the more we get out there, the more people catch, and the more we see. But it's improving daily, and I mean, right now you can go out there and catch 10, 15 fish on a half-day charter easily. I mean, them are some really nice, solid numbers, and that's getting close to what it should be, as far as the normal goes.
Yep. Well, good. Glad to hear that. Well, let's talk about 902 on the avenue. 902 Indiana Avenue. It's another bar in Sheboygan. I hope you don't spend all your time in bars. You seem to know all these owners, and you play pool in some of them, or used to. There are a lot of bars right there in Sheboygan.
There are. There's a bar on every corner in Sheboygan, Dan. I mean, and they're good ones. Every one is. I mean, and that's what's unique about Sheboygan. And the reason I know these people, like you said, you hit it right on the head. I shoot pool tournaments in the winter. I shoot league, and I shoot for a lot of these bars. But more importantly than that is our customers, when they come to town, what do they want to do? They want to go get a cold beer. They want to get a burger, a brat, a steak, what have you, lunch, supper, whatever. So we send them to all these places, and they're all, not all of them, but most of them are walking distance from my boats, my condos, and my store. And 902 on Indiana Avenue is. So you can see it right from my place. You can walk right across the 8th Street, go right alongside the 8th Street Bridge, very scenic walk, and go over to 902 by Lance and Wendy. They got a great menu, great bar, great food.
I understand they have a great steak sandwich that has some history to it.
They do. I mean, that's the Drews family that's been around for a long time. The mom owns Tommy's Bar on the north side, and Lance and Wendy own 902 on Indiana Avenue. And back in the day, my dad used to hang out with one of the best restaurant bar owners of all of Sheboygan, Lonnie Drews, which owned the Hofbrau. And the Hofbrau was a great steak place on 8th Street. Many locals went there, many tourists went there, out of town folks came to town just to go to the Hofbrau. And what Lance and Wendy brought back was the Hofbrau special. So you can go to 902 and get the open-faced tenderloin steak seasoned the way that his dad cooked it back in the day on an open hard roll. It's delicious. The Hofbrau special at 902. You got to check it out.
All right. Well, Dan, we're going to let you go, but folks can contact you to book a charter. You still got openings in July and August, I would assume?
We do the later part of July. Everything's filling quickly. We get hundreds of calls here a week. A lot of people are calling, getting in. We do have August, September openings yet. But get your dates, get your plans, get to me, and give me a call at 920-377-1147. Check out dumperdan.com on the internet. Or like you mentioned, Facebook, every day, all day, we're posting pictures at Dumper Dan Sport Fishing Charters on Facebook. Get out here and get in on this action.
All right. Well, Dan, we'll talk to you again next week and see if the fishing is still as hot as it is now.
You betcha. I'll be here. Thank you.
All right. Dumper Dan Welch, and as he mentioned, dumperdan.com, or on Facebook, Dumper Dan Sport Fishing Charters. And don't forget 902 on the Avenue, 902 Indiana Avenue in Sheboygan, a great place to grab lunch or supper after you're fishing. I'm Dan Small, more Outdoors Radio right after this.